Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Tuesday. This being the holiday weekend, or Christmas weekend, rather. I'm just going to kind of do some random bits. I don't have a real focus other than what just kind of spontaneously arises within me. And so today and tomorrow we'll have those, and then have a safe and caring holiday out there, because I know this is going to be a really rough time of year. I've spent a number of Christmases alone in my own world, and just right into it. When it comes, first of all, before we get into it, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents rediscover their happiness by helping them heal their trauma bond, discover who they are, and create happy relationships. That's my focus, is helping you get from codependency to interdependency, from codependency to happiness, to your own joy. I do that because that's where I come from. Okay, I was highly codependent in my childhood, teen years, and early adult years. I used codependency as my sense of connection to other people. I used it as a means to try to create safety and control threat. I also used it as a means of identity. This is who I am. And it was the only way I knew how to get love. It's the only way I knew how to get attention. It was the only way I knew how to really live. It was my relationship strategy in that respect. It's all I have understood and knew. And so coming out of it was a really difficult journey, because you're moving into a world that feels very opposite to your own nature, right? To your own normalcy, and that rub really, it's uncomfortable. You have to confront a lot of things within yourself. You have to open up to a curiosity and to a willingness to discover the world without the safe haven and the safe person to rely on, like a parent that can give you guidance, that can give you insight. At least in my experience, I didn't have that. As well meaning as I had sensed my parents were in most things. It was really, no, they were not there. Codependency can come out of a lot of different arenas, but neglect is one that's chronic across all of them. And it's the lack of being seen, the lack of being valued, the lack of being regarded, to be considered, for someone to take time to process your experience and attempt to get as close as they can to it so that they can understand you and hold space with you. And that's, we get into this bit about discussing real healing. It falls in line with this concept, this idea of knowing someone. It's this element of intimacy. We were, like on Sunday, we talked a bit about intimacy and how that functions in the relationship strategy, and what it means to see and understand someone for who they are, to really know them, to get outside of what we think they are and get into who they see themselves as, and to understand how they see the world, at least to make the attempt, because that's a huge act of connection and sincerity and love there. It's a real generosity to that human being. And in healing, we tend to try to control things. We tend to try to structure the healing so that we can get to a result. And I think that comes from the common experience of transactionalism, where we are doing one thing to get another thing. We're not really in connection with ourselves. We're not really within relationship to who we are. We're in relationship to what we think we should be. And that tends to really screw things up. So in your journey beyond codependency, in your world, you may find that coming up. You may find that, wow, yeah, this is really interferent, right? It's really in the way. I'm trying to get from A to B. That's not loving ourselves. A lot of times loving ourselves seems to fall in this category of like, oh, have the nice job or the nice car, or pamper myself, or buy myself the nice things. That isn't that's giving ourselves pleasure. That's doting on ourselves. But love includes the real process of the dirt, of the messy, of the yucky in the journey. It's leaning into the pain. It's respecting that pain. It's honoring that pain, giving it permission to exist, giving ourselves permission to experience what's going on for us, and caring for the parts of ourselves that really fall in that space. I also just realized I haven't shared this out to the community. I'm in holiday mode. My brain's like, holidays. So I'm going to share this out real quick while we have our discussion here. And it's really, really impromptu, because it's not something, again, it's not scripted. I usually write out what I'm going to talk about, so I kind of have a framework. And this one is more just random bits from me, hence the title. So that's shared out to the community. So what do you want to know about healing? What matters to you? Because it's a discussion, so share in the comments. They usually take about 10 to 15 second delays, so when they pop up, I'll answer them. Now, another thing that's come up for me, because remember it's random bits, so we'll kind of bounce around here. We were working in the SAR, the Somatic Awareness and Release Practice, yesterday. And if you want in on that, the link's above on Facebook, below on YouTube. It's free. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for subscribing. You're making me famous now. I'm so excited. Somatic Awareness and Release, the practice is about allowing ourselves to feel what we feel and allowing it to take more space and seeing what comes up beyond that. And in that journey, it is a journey with the sensation that shows up. It's a journey in connecting back to ourselves and what's happening within us. One of the interesting elements of healing in this is that the more open we are to whatever comes in for us, whatever shows up for us, the more healing we really get. Because it's emotional healing isn't like physical healing. Okay, so that the word itself is really kind of it doesn't fit it appropriately. Like it's not the accurate description. Emotional healing is about closing the gap between event A and rest and safety. Okay, so event A is something that happened to us, something that hurt us, something that harmed us, something that put us into an activated state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which we couldn't get out of. And then there's the gap, and then there's rest and peace, regulation, calm, creativity. This gap is where we feel the pain, we feel the neglect, we feel the lack of attention and mindfulness to the pain and to the experience we went through. Healing emotionally is about closing that gap so that we can connect the event and what we went through and return to peace. And the SIR is one of many tools out there that can allow us to bridge that gap, to walk the gap, so that it's known, so that it's valued, so it's regarded, so it's witnessed. And that closes the gap because it allows us to come back to a place of completion or integration with ourselves. It's like, here I am. I'm okay. I went through something very painful, and I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm safe physically, I'm safe emotionally, I'm safe relationally. Which means I can do what I need to do, build connections I want to build, be creative, engage in my world again. This is the power and the reality of healing, rather. So, Robin asks, I understand the holidays are hard. Every day seems to be a battle. I'm exhausted. I'm pretending to be in the spirit, and it depresses me even more. What is the protocol when we feel emotionally exhausted to keep fighting? And, well, what you're resisting. So, when we get exhausted, it's because we're in resistance to something. We're fighting against something. Say, Well, one of the indicators here is that you're pretending to be in the spirit. You're resisting what you really, really feel. So what would it feel like to give what you really feel some permission to take up space? What would it feel like to allow that to be okay? Maybe you hate the holiday. Maybe you're just tired of it. Maybe this is just not fun. What if it's okay to let that have some space? What does that feel like? Maybe, in addition to that, what if you let yourself rest? If you're exhausted, where do you need rest? Where do you need care? Are you willing to let that take up some space? So let me know. Yep, permission to take up space. The idea here, this comes from a training system called Huna. And Huna looks at the human as 3 individual cells. So you got what's called high self, middle self, low self. And for movement and healing to happen, you need to gain permission of the low self, because that's where the pain is housed. It's in the body, because low self is the body, it's subconscious. And so I learned early on in both my own personal experience and my own practice that when I asked permission or gave permission to things to take up space, they worked a lot easier, because now I'm not compelling, I'm not controlling, I'm not forcing. I'm inviting, I'm allowing, and I'm getting in connection, I'm getting into relationship with these parts of myself that allow us to move forward. So I give it permission to take up space, which endorses it and says, yes, you can take up all you want. Because I'm the one controlling the space consciously. I'm limiting it, I'm narrowing it, I'm keeping it tight, like controlled. Constrained is a good word for that. So yeah, when we're talking about healing, we're talking about emotional movement, we're talking about an allowance, not about correction. Most of the time we come into this from the idea that I need to fix what I feel is wrong. No, what you feel you're feeling what you feel for a very valid reason, even though if it may not be conscious or logical to you. I call this legitimization. I feel what I feel because of what I've been through. My emotions tell me the story of my journey. It's the soundtrack to what I've gone through. So, yeah, it means not fighting it. It's a little tricky. Because if you have a sensation in you fighting against your emotions, the first thing you want to do is allow that sensation of fight to take up a little more space. It's counterintuitive. There's the SAR can help with that. There's another tool I developed called the flow method. And it works like this. I understand that I'm fighting what I feel. I accept that I'm fighting what I feel. I allow myself to fight what I feel. This gets you out of resistance. There's 3 things we do with emotion all the time. The first one's resistance. We resist what we feel. We resist what we don't feel. We resist what we want to feel, what we don't want to feel. We resist. This is like a dam on a river. It just starts backing that emotion up. So resistance is that first thing. Second thing we tend to do is attach to the emotion. This means we want to keep it. We want to hoard it. We want to keep it close. We want to squish it for all we can get out of it. We don't want to let it go. We don't want it to leave. That's also control. It's also a form of resistance against it leaving, against it changing, things like that. Third thing we tend to do with emotion is analyze it. We analyze it. What is this here for? What does this mean? What's its significance? We think that if we can understand it, it'll go away. We think that if we can understand it, we can control it. And that's obviously not happening, right? Because if analysis worked, I wouldn't be in business. We would all be happy and healed. So it's very different than that. Yeah. So the counterintuitive approach to emotional flow is to accept whatever shows up and allow it to take up space. So if the first thing that shows up in my awareness is a fight against what I'm feeling, then I give that permission to take up space. Because it's okay. It's not wrong. It's just there. So yeah, we're getting you out of your mind. We're getting you out of trying to control feelings, and we're getting you back into your body, back into an understanding, back into space. And this is a practice. Practice. One of the core tools to this is a tool called holding space, and it's part of the Be Calm system. And it's free. The link's above on Facebook, below on YouTube, guys. Be Calm, click it, get it. It's free. There'll be new trainings coming out for that system in January. It's normal to do it with everything, Carl. It's an understandable experience to do it with everything. I do it with everything still, and I've been doing this for 13 years. I'm just better at recognizing that I'm doing it, and then I just allow that to have more space. So you don't try to change that. You make space with it, and then you can move right through it real quick. Real quick. Robin says, I work... Yes, giving yourself permission to feel how you feel. Yeah. Now, you have the old system, the Rapid Heal membership. In there is... Well, if you log into the university, Robin, you go to the Heal Yourself membership. There's an index page there. Make sure it better be there. I put it there. These things wander around. But there's a tool called the Legitimizer. And that's going to help you get a lot more permission in how to do these things. So let me find... there it is. Yeah, right here. I'm going to link it in the comment. I mean, if you have a membership, you'll be able to access it. If you don't, you won't. So, Robin, this is kind of cool. I've never done it. Oh, well, I screwed that up. So, we'll try this again. There's the link. Log into that. Try the Legitimizer out. The Legitimizer is also publicly available. I release most of my tools publicly because I have this thing about healing being accessible and mostly extremely affordable. Legitimizer. There we go. Eventually, my goal is to have all my tools available for you guys for free. And then if you want more advanced trainings, you can get the Heal Yourself membership for $49 a month. I mean, lordy, that's cheaper than most co-pays. But that's one of my goals, is to make it extremely affordable and accessible, because healing isn't something you should pay an arm and a leg for. So, yep. So, let me know what you guys are thinking there. So with healing and with allowing emotions to move, that gap between the pain and the experience and back to rest and calm and safety closes. That journey can take a lot of time. That journey can take a lot of energy, because some things, there's a lot of distance there. Some things there's not so much. The goal, the way I frame it, is I don't look for the result. I don't look for the end result. I don't look for the destination. Destinationism is very dangerous to the healing of ourselves, because it traps us in a transactional relationship with our emotions. Oh, I'm trying to get rid of this, and now it's back. I hate myself. I hate this. I'm stupid. It doesn't really work well. Now, real love has no objective to getting somewhere. Real love is about receiving ourselves as we are and showing up as we are. It doesn't have a judgment or condemnation on that. Robin says, everyone tells me I'm strong and to be strong. Yeah, I'm going to swear here. Fuck being strong. This is bullshit. Be strong. Now, what they're telling you to do is ignore your feelings. Buck up. No. I'm not going to do that. You don't have to do it either. Because guess what? Because your feelings are valid. Your experience is legitimate. A lot of people don't like emotions. This scares the bejesus out of them. I don't like it. It's like, And it's because they don't have a safe relationship with their emotions. They don't have an understanding that their emotions aren't something wrong or bad or it's going to get you. And so it's not the boogeyman. Your emotions are a narrative. They're a somatic or felt sense narrative about your experience. And so you don't have to be strong. You get to be fragile. You get to be delicate. You get to be needy. You get to be, soft, quiet, reserved, exhausted, frustrated, angry, bored. You get to be what you are in that moment. You get to be what you feel in that moment. The less we bypass, the less we reason ourselves out of emotion, the more we just legitimize it. Without creating a story, that's one thing we tend to do. We're either avoiding all the emotion or we're meshing with all the emotion with story. Story is, I'm feeling this way because I'm blah, 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 or because life is blah, 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 or because God is blah, 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 or blah, 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 blah. I'm feeling what I'm feeling because of what I went through. That's it. That's a fact. Went through thing, felt this way about it. Leave it at that. That's enough. It's more than adequate to getting through and honoring what's there. Because we're not rational creatures. We're emotional creatures that happen to have rational thought and thinking now and again, but mostly we're emotionally driven. I mean, satisfaction, joy, happiness, these are emotions, not mental concepts. They're not a product of thinking, they're a product of experience. They're emotional. They're physical. They're somatic. Breathe into that validation, Robin. Allow it to take up a little more space. Allow it to be received in the format that it is. So we aren't wrong for feeling something. Feelings are not harmful. They don't harm anybody. They aren't a threat to anybody. They don't hurt anybody. Feelings don't do that. Behaviors can do that, but feelings don't. And I separate the two and we're like, wow, let's take anger, for instance, because this is always the hot one with this. I can feel angry and not act it out, which means my emotion isn't the issue, it's the behavior. Our feelings are not the problem. They never have been. They're a good, worthy thing. All your feelings are. Even the feelings of rage, the feelings of vengeance, the feelings of vindication, the feelings of jealousy, the feelings of insecurity, the feelings of lust. These are impulses in the body. They are parts of the experience, and we respect that. We give it regard. Then they don't control us, but they illuminate us to ourselves, and we can understand better where we're at and what we fundamentally need. So that's another element to healing, is that because healing is not about fixing something like allopathic medicine. When you break your arm, they got to set it. Healing is about the meeting of the unmet, it's the fulfilling of the unmet need. So again, back to that idea, that concept of something happened to us, pain resulted, we have a gap between rest, play, creativity, and safety. Well, before the pain happened, we had a need and a want that was alive in us. And this need and want fulfillment was aborted through the act that ended up with the emotional injury or pain. When you get back in contact with that need and we start to fulfill it, that gap gets real small real fast. It's one of the reasons I approach codependency from the angle of this is how I got my needs met. So it's a needs fulfillment approach that's not very good at what it does, but at that at least. But it's an attempt to get needs met. It's also, and one of those primary needs is safety, attention, and acceptance, validation. So when we look at things from the lens of I'm getting needs met, then our emotions are a signal. They're a language towards need. They're a language that speaks of need. Allow us to understand and see, connect with that, and regard it. So allow yourself to explore what you need and open up to receiving it, but also, especially during these times of years, or this time of year, allow yourself to grieve that it may not be fulfilled right now. It's okay. It's okay to be angry about that. It's okay to grieve it. It's okay to be frustrated with it. Okay. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for the discussion and for sharing. Thank you for being a part of my life. I appreciate you. Be gentle with yourself. Allow yourself to take up a little more space just as you are. And I will see you guys in our next video, our next discussion. Okay? Bye-bye, guys.